You're applying to be an expendable?
Yeah.
You read through the whole application.
Ain't that a kick in the head?
Yeah, I should have read through it.
Every time you die, we learn something new, and humanity moves forward.
Oh, man, he's alive.
It's fine.
My life is gonna be.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And my name's John.
And we are the Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Mickey 17. During a human expedition to colonize space, Mickey 17, a so-called expendable employee, is sent to explore an ice planet. John, this was one of my most anticipated movies of 2025. As soon as I saw who was attached to this movie, specifically Bong Joon Ho, was attached to this. I love his work. I mean, everything from Parasite, Snowpiercer, a couple of his other films I've seen as well. I was excited. That was like that is my director when he comes to make something. Like, I pay attention when I see his name's attached to something. And I feel like I should have known something was up a little bit, because this movie went through a series of delays up until its release. I know there were issues with the director fighting with the studio, especially like trying to reschedule it or reshoots and stuff like that. But, you know, optimism, call me a fool. It came out, I watched it. Actually, I waited till more recently to watch it. It's something that actually went under the radar for me, and I finally decided, hey, we should probably check this out. Watched it. Was not impressed, man. Actually, I have to say, this is probably one of my more disappointing movies of the year for me. I had a lot of expectations riding on sci-fi, you know, coming back as a genre, and this just didn't do it for me, man. I was really disappointed.
I was pretty interested in seeing it as well, and waited as well, because after it released, I feel like you didn't hear too much. Yeah. You know, it kind of came and went and was on streaming relatively quickly, right, which usually isn't a very good sign. The thing that got me excited was I had seen Snowpiercer prior to seeing Parasite, and it looked like a return to throughout all of Bong Joon Ho's movies that I've seen, there's a big focus on class struggle, yes, but a return to using those science fiction themes as an allegory and kind of letting that class struggle play out in a more fantastical sort of environment is fun and very unique to him as a director. You could tell from the trailer, or at least I could, oh, this is probably the Snowpiercer guy, even before his name appeared on the screen, right?
For sure.
So I was definitely looking forward to it, but I agree with you. It did not hit the same way that Snowpiercer did.
No, and before we really get into, I think, the crux of the negatives here, I do want to praise what this movie did do, because it does, shine with Bong Joon Ho's effort with what he does, as far as, the setting in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. I think all the sets are pretty much practical that are built for the most part, and they look phenomenal, right? I think everything does stand out as uniquely sci-fi, if a little Snowpiercer for some taste, I would say. But overall, I think they're really engaging and really interesting. The world itself, to me, I do like it. I could see myself being engaged, especially because I think the actors do a really good job. Well, not all of them, but specifically Robert Pattinson, I think, really does an amazing job in this movie. It's funny how the guy from Twilight really can stand out as an actor. And I think he's more than shred that mock here, I think, if we will, at this point, because he really proves himself here, even if he is a little Steve-O from Jackass at times with his voice of Mickey 17. 17, he plays Mickey 17 and 18 in this movie, his clone, and the two feel like different characters, and he does a really good job engaging with himself, and that's really hard to do as an actor, to have to
you can tell which one is speaking. Yeah, you can tell even without given the substance of what they're saying, you can tell which character is talking, which I think is can be difficult if you're not a skilled actor, which Robert Pattinson clearly is, right?
And he puts the effort into it, and that's not a normal thing for an actor to do, especially in like a Hollywood type. He's done a lot of bigger roles. I mean, he's done Batman and stuff like that too, but anything he does, even if it's animated, he puts a full effort into each project, and it's on display here, and I thought that was really great. The problem is when you have that, but then you have a script that just is slow, boring, doesn't really know where it wants to be. It has interesting elements, but it really just can't find where it wants to be. It wants to be a social commentary. It wants to be a sci-fi. It wants to be a dark humor. It wants to be serious. John, it just felt like it was all over the place. The tone in this movie, if I could stress anything, the tone in this movie is just abhorrent, to be honest with you. I really just couldn't get into that.
It was definitely elevated and kind of unreal, which there are elements of that in Snowpiercer, mostly among the villains, right?
Yes.
Because they're supposed to seem, from my perspective, like they don't understand that what they are doing is wrong. They don't see what they're forcing on their workers is wrong, or the other people on the train. But the problem is that elevated sort of big unreal nature is just like everywhere in this movie.
Yes.
And you can't live through the main character the same way that you could in Snowpiercer.
Right, and I think Snowpiercer, if we're going to compare it to something, I think that is his closest work, if we're really going to pick something to compare this to.
Sure.
Snowpiercer kind of had the ambiguity of who the villain was up until the very end of it. It was pretty much just society was ultimately the villain, and he was like him pushing through the train to get to the end. Eventually he found, the conductor of the train and everything. And, that's how, for those, I don't want to spoil Snowpiercer, but go watch Snowpiercer. It's very good. Eventually he gets to like a finality and you have a conclusion. Here, I want to say, and I don't know how to put this, I guess, I feel like he got lost in the sauce a little bit with what he was doing as far as his political commentary. Because, it's tough because I really don't like Mark Ruffalo. I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not. I'm not a huge fan of him. I do like him in Zodiac and a couple other movies. I think he's pretty good. But overall, I'm not a huge fan. And this was one of the movies where I really don't like him now, because he was doing a Trump impression, which that's fine. If you want to do social commentary, 100% for it. Absolutely love it. The problem is, unlike Snowpiercer, where you had you had this class system and you were portraying it and trying to keep it ambiguous and trying to just go with the theme. Here, it felt like a direct satire / parody of Donald Trump throughout the whole movie. And it was super annoying. And not even because it was Trump, it's just because it was super annoying and super obvious. If it lacked any kind of art or anything special about it to keep me engaged. Like I could just watch Saturday Night Live and get the same thing. I really didn't feel like I was getting anything special with what this movie potentially had.
Yeah, I agree. It takes away from the originality of the concept when you're like, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, this is clearly directed at one person, not the system that this person is a part of that is a problem,
it's just so on the nose. When just something is so blatantly on the nose, then go make that movie. Don't put it in this awesome sci-fi movie, because I think maybe you could agree with me. Some of the early beginnings of this movie were actually pretty good. As far as how the movie kicked off and how it started, he's about to die in the beginning, and then it kind of cuts back and starts over how we got here into this situation. And all that was kind of interesting. But once you started diving deeper into this, social Donald Trump element character and adding all this political intrigue and not really intrigue, just political commentary, it lost me. It really lost me because the other elements got too shoved out of the way.
The concept, the basic concept of the story is interesting.
Yes.
But like you're saying, I think the way that they chose to play it out is kind of moved in a way that didn't highlight what was interesting about it, which is like, how do these two not really identical people coexist in a world where they're both going to be destroyed.
Right. And that's so interesting to me. And even like the other social commentary about just kind of like throwing your body out there to like, I'm an expendable person, and just making copies of you over and over again. Like no one would volunteer for that job. And the idea of that is very interesting. And they kind of touch on it for like a half a second. And then they're like, no, let's go back to the political intrigue. And then by the end of the movie, we end up being like an alien weird. The finale kind of just made no sense. Like how we got from the beginning to the movie to the end of the movie. I don't know what happened. Again, I just feel like it got lost,
And sometimes that can be fun.
Sure.
Like, I can't believe we ended up here.
Right.
But in this movie, you weren't really having fun along the way.
No.
And so you just ended up in a place where you're like, okay, this is strange, and I didn't really have a lot of fun getting here, so I didn't really enjoy this movie that much.
No, and then the other thing too, I think, is as far as, Robert Pattinson obviously is the strongest actor in this movie. I guess maybe you can make an argument for Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo is a good actor, even though I don't like him. I'll put my bias aside. I think he is a decent actor,
and I think Toni Collette did very well as well.
And I think Steven Yeun's really good as an actor. As far as the other people, I'm not too familiar with them, so I'm going to stop there as far as listing people. But everybody else just feels like either half written or just there's just not enough information given to me to care about each character, especially the love interest. As far as Mickey 17's love interest, she's probably a fine actress, but the problem is she felt so flip-flopped as far as her emotions. There's a point where I'm like, is she the bad guy? Is she the good guy? Then by the end, it's like,
you really know what
like
she wanted.
Yeah, by the end, she's like the hero we always wanted. I'm like, that came out of nowhere. Thanks for explaining that about the whole movie. Right. Sure, exactly. Man, it's a real shame. I just feel like I don't know what happened, and I tried to explore. I think we talked about this a little off camera a little bit, and I told you I went to try and explore like what happened here, and all I could tell was Bong Joon Ho he fought for the director's cut of this movie. Apparently the studio wanted a different cut that wasn't this one. And, I'd be curious what that cut is. And I hate to say that, decide like I'm siding with the studio for something as far as an artistic direction, but maybe that was what we were supposed to do here, because again, the mess that we got here, it could have been something really special. It really could have been. But overall, it just, I don't know. He had too many ideas maybe floating in his head, and he couldn't execute it properly.
Yeah. And like. I think I am not trying to detract from Snowpiercer, because I think Snowpiercer has more in common with this than Parasite.
Sure.
But I think the reason that Parasite was as successful and lauded as it was is I did a little research, and Parasite was actually based on a play that he wrote, and then kind of pared down the play, and taking a play, which you cannot really go all over the place with a play. You kind of have to be very focused, have your dialogue, have your narrative, and execute on it, right?
Right.
I think that's part of why that movie was so successful and resonated with people and won the awards that it won, is because like you took a good idea, you pared it down, you really worked on it and focused it in on this concept and delivered something that was enjoyable and thoughtful and got the ideas across in a way that was entertaining.
Yeah, and it's curious that you bring that up too, because I feel like Snowpiercer's in a similar boat where I know it is a lengthy, from what I understand, lengthy comic. I know there's, at least I've seen quite a few volumes of it. So to some extent, he must have had to trim that down and narrow it down to just one story. And the story he told was really interesting, and maybe nothing super groundbreaking or anything like that, but the way he delivered that story was super intriguing and super special. I mean, think about how special it was. It actually ended up getting its own TV series, which was relatively successful. I think it was on like TBS or something like that, but it lasted quite a long time from what I understand, like quite a few more seasons than I thought a Snowpiercer TV show ever would have. And that's been celebrated. There are a lot of really great fans of that, and it goes to show, you know what I mean? And maybe, I don't know what, I know he did adapt a novel for Mickey 17. I know it's a popular novel. How closely it reflects the novel, I can't say. But again, I'm speaking on the movie here, and man, it didn't do it for me. So with all that being said, I think I'm ready to throw a number on this one. I'm going to go ahead and give Mickey 17 a 6.2 out of 10. Again, I got to give it points for what it is. I do think the setting and the atmosphere is really well done, and that's to be expected. I think Robert Pattinson, if nothing else, he gives one of the best performance in the movie, and it is interesting to watch really just for that performance. I think it is interesting for that. The rest of the movie, I just don't think you're going to have a great time. It spins its wheels. There's not really much going on. Occasionally here and there, you get some interesting world tidbits, and there's some cool world building that leaves you really going, what could this have been? I really think this could have been something special, but by the end of the movie, I was kind of happy it was over. But again, is it worth watching? If you like sci-fi, check it out. I think there is something there. There is something funny about seeing a man come out of a giant copier over and over again. And just that theme itself is very interesting. But, again, it's just one of those movies where I wish it was a lot more. John, what about you, man? What do you think?
So similarly, I found some things to enjoy in the movie, but I would not say overall that I greatly enjoyed myself, right? Yeah. I didn't, I wasn't super excited or pumped up at the end of it. And I would have to give it a 6 out of 10, and even 6. You know, it's definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it conveyed the ideas it wanted to convey, and didn't do it in as interesting a way as a previous movie from the same director.
Right.
And, you know, told me a couple of unique ideas and showed me a couple of unique scenarios, but that's about it.
It's just potential, man. Just when you see potential like that, it hurts even more. And when you know a director is capable of doing something more, you know, it's just curious. You know, it's curious what the issue was, whether it was behind the scenes, whether it was him. I always joke, for video game fans out there, I always joke with Kojima, the famous video game director who did Metal Gear Solid. He did Death Stranding, and Death Stranding is popular and people seem to enjoy it. But I always joked, like, you know, sometimes, you know, Konami kept him on a leash for a reason. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you need someone to like reel in those crazy ideas and kind of scale you back a little bit just to keep the story going. And, you know, Death Stranding got a little crazy. So for those, I'm going through that right now. So for fans of that, enjoy the comparison. But everyone out there, what did you think of this one? Mickey 17. Did you hate it? Did you love it? Did you want more? If you read the book, that's actually what I'm really looking for. If you did read the book, let me know what you think. Was it actually a fair comparison? You know, maybe he did adapt it perfectly and we're just, you know, not understanding it, or not, we weren't the target audience, or whatever the case is. I am more curious about that than anything else. But make sure you leave a like on this video, subscribe, do all that jazz. My name is Kevin. That guy's John. We're your Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you in the next one. If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.